Hi, and welcome to Chapel's Corner. I'm your host, Chris Chapell. Today we're going to talk a little bit about dating, and as well as some insight into a couple of my favorite books regarding business and the business world. So first I want to touch base on this whole dating topic because it's been a hot topic in my office recently. I work for a local nonprofit. It's also part of a national association, but locally there's a few of us in our office, and one of the girls, as she calls herself, is a serial dater. And she's been talking a lot about lately her dates and what's going on with her dates in terms of, let's see, the fact that she's been on 17 first dates in the last 3 months. So that's basically a date per week. Not to mention the fact that some of these dates have gone on to second, third, and fourth dates. So she's leading a pretty active social life, and I'm a little jealous, but not entirely. Partly because she's got to plan them all, or at least plans most of them. It's a free dating website, which I think is probably the worst thing she could be on, because anybody and everybody's on that site just looking to get, well, frankly, you know what they're looking to get. So she's on this free website because she, as she said in her own words, she's cheap. And in her defense, she'll be on here in the next episode so we can talk a little bit more about what's going on. But I want to get your insight and your thoughts before we invite her on to know, when you go on a first date, male or female, who should pay, who should plan? I realize it's 2011. I realize, you know, women's rights and equal things. But I personally think the guy should plan and the guy should pay. She's unfortunately planned most of her first dates, as well as paid or at least split the bill for, well, he's offered to pay, but she's split the bill for most. She's even been on a second or third date with one guy where she offered to pay her half to be nice, and he said, oh, no, I would have paid your half, but then continued to take her money and split the bill. So I want to know, who plans the first date? Who pays? Moving on from that, we'll continue that in episode 2, but moving on from that, I want to talk a little bit today about companies and really what we think are good to great companies and how they get there, as well as companies that are really built to last. And if you have at all read, and I'm sure many of you have, Jim Collins, and honestly his Good to Great and Built to Last, it can't get any simpler than that. Built to Last actually came first, but then was rewritten after Good to Great came out. And Good to Great really is talking about organizations, whether they're new, not new, mediocre, not so great, but how they can become great companies. And what are some of those key traits in being a great company? And one of those is actually the leader and the leadership behind it. But what I find interesting is, from when the time Good to Great was written in 2001, talks about great companies like Fannie Mae and new leaders that have come in to take companies like Fannie Mae that were losing money to becoming these really great companies. Well, fast forward 10 years later to 2011, and Fannie Mae's gone bankrupt in 2010. So are they really a good to great company, and what's gone on from then? So Jim Collins, if by chance you're actually watching and listening, I want a follow-up book from Good to Great and Built to Last to talk about Fannie Mae. But moving on to Built to Last, it really takes on the whole concept of what does a company look for and being that sustainable company. And what they talk about, and I'm actually going to quote and read a little bit from here. They talk about a Built to Last company as a visionary company, which is really the company that is not just the great company in the beginning, but has a long track record of making a significant impact on the world around them. And no matter how charismatic or visionary the leaders all are, and as visionary as the products and services are, all great ideas and eventually good leaders become obsolete. So visionary companies are the ones that really prosper over long periods of time and through multiple product life cycles and multiple generations. Okay, enough reading at the moment. So really, what are those visionary companies? They're the ones that can sustain leadership change. They're the ones that can sustain and be innovative around products and services, and not just continue to push through one thing. How are you constantly innovative and working with the world around you? So there's this one area that I'll talk about, to quote just a little bit more. Being a clock builder and not a time teller. So here's what that means in the short form. Being a charismatic visionary leader is time telling. So you're a time teller if you're charismatic and you see vision. But in order to be the built to last company, you need to be a clock builder. So that means you're prospering far behind the presence of any single leader and through multiple product life cycles. So if we think about what has gone on in technology today and how companies have really gone from, you know, the basic mainframe computer into iPads and Kindles, and how they've really transformed technology, there are some really great companies that are built to last, regardless of who is their CEO. And yes, some CEOs have come back and tried to take over the company, Apple. But again, they were built to last. They've gone through product life cycles. They've seen things. They've looked to visionary to see how they can continue and sustain in the future. So I think it's important for whether you're in a business, whether you're an entrepreneur, nonprofit, what are you looking at to get your organization into the future? How innovative are you? Are you really focused on the products and not looking at what's coming up next? I think it's important to look at what's coming up, what's being innovated, what's out there, looking at your marketers and looking at other companies to see what they're doing and how you can sustain, and not necessarily copy, but take what they're using and putting out there, and how you can maximize on their efforts to then continue your own efforts. So that's my little take and my little plug on Good to Great and Built to Last. I think they go together. Yes, I recently did an MBA program, so I had to read these, but I think there's some really great key points on whether you're a budding entrepreneur, a current business owner, or just looking at business and nonprofit life as a whole. So definitely read into these. And I want to thank you for watching today's episode. And just so you know, today's episode is really a reshoot from the first episode. Apparently in the first episode, I swiveled a lot because I'm in a swivel chair. And secondly, I was wearing a dress, so apparently the angle of the camera didn't pose right. I was not pulling a full Britney Spears. I definitely was wearing something under the dress. But you could have had a more interesting show, I guess. So today's the second tape. I wore pants for you. Yes, I wore pants. So we'll see what happens on episode 2, but definitely stay tuned. I want your insight at Chapell's Corner on Twitter, so it's at Chapell's Corner, CHAPELLS Corner, all one word, on Twitter, as to first dates. Who plans them, guy or girl, both, mutual, who pays, again, is it shared, is it the guy, the girl, how does that all work? And for episode 2, we're going to have my coworker, special guest, on to talk about her dating and what's going on there, and see if we can get some insight into helping her out find some of the right guys. And then I have a feeling we'll end up with the guy perspective in episode 3. So thank you again, and we'll chat soon.